Hi, everybody. Pastor Dennis here. So glad to be with you again this week. I'm just, as I tell you, pretty much every week, I'm just so thrilled that you're living by those values, the biblical values of grow, connect, and share. This is what makes the church really function like the church. We can talk about church all that we want, but unless we're really growing together and it's by connecting together like you're doing in your small groups or with another individual, it's really not going to be what God intended it to be, because He meant for us to share life together. So let me just thank you again for living according to the scriptures. God is really, really honored when we actually live like Jesus. This last weekend, if you remember back, we covered another one of the parables, the parable of the lost sons, or commonly called the parable of the prodigal son. And the main point, the main lesson as we highlighted is that since God seeks out that which is lost and rejoices when it's found, so we too ought to be out seeking the lost and rejoicing when they come to faith in Christ. We should rejoice in the same way that the Lord was rejoicing. And if you remember back, that was the context of the parable, that the Pharisees, they didn't like the fact that all of these sinners were gathering around Jesus. They thought that it was inappropriate. They thought it was appalling, not only to them, but to God. And they considered themselves superior and self-righteous. And we handled all of those different elements, if you remember back in your study. One thing that I didn't get to spend a lot of time on is this thought. As you remember back, the older brother, who I think really is the key to this story, he comes in, he's angry because his dad has rewarded, at least from his perspective, the brother's bad behavior. And he's ticked off. He doesn't want to come in and join the party. Well, the dad goes out to him and entreats him. The text says, I beg you, come in. Come in and enjoy the festivities, please. And the older brother just hardened his heart. He hardened his heart to the good things that God was doing. And the father once again just called him, son, you have a special place within my heart as the firstborn. Please come in. But we had to celebrate. And if you remember, we concluded this story with this son that was lost has been found. He was dead. He's now been alive. We didn't have a choice. We had to celebrate. Something magnificent has happened. Well, the interesting thing is the story ends without us knowing what the older son's response was. And I think the Lord did that for a reason. Because the story is really unfinished with us. Do we stay out and away from those who are lost? Do we think ourselves superior? Do we not enter into the seeking and in the rejoicing? The decision is mine to make this week. The decision is yours. And I'd like for you to take some time in your small group to talk about that. Are you actually out seeking the lost? Are you rejoicing when they're found? Does this parable have any practical input for you to challenge you and me together? And maybe as a group, how do we reach more people with the gospel? How do we get the message out to sinners so that they can know the Father the way that we do? So the decision really is yet to be determined. We know from the rest of the gospel story that the Pharisees, they made up their mind about what they wanted to do with Jesus. They ended up handing him over to the Romans to be crucified. They hardened their hearts. And I don't want to do that, and I don't want you to do that either. You have a whole bunch of good questions there for you to dialogue and discuss about, but just remember that the end of this story hasn't yet been written, at least for your life. And I'd like for you to talk a little bit about that, of how this week might be different for you if you had a heart for the lost like this father had a heart for his lost son. So enjoy your time together. Lord's blessing on you. We'll look forward to being back with you again next week.